We now move into our next session, which is a fireside chat on the topic building an iconic B2B SaaS powerhouse. Building products that are simple, intuitive, and have great user experience is the vision for any product leader. What does it take to build B2B platforms and why ecosystems are key to scaling and feedback? Like I just mentioned, we have a fireside chat now on the topic building an iconic B2B SaaS powerhouse. I'd like to invite our speakers onto the stage. Please put your hands together for Bala Venkat Rao, Head of Economy, Atlassian. And this session will be chaired by Ujjwal Tikku, Startup Product Consultant. Please give them a big round of applause as we invite them for this session.
Bala, welcome to Bangalore. You flew in from the US for this session. So very keen to know what brought you here, right? And not only physically to the NPC event, but also your career journey of where you are right now. You're at Atlassian right now, running a very interesting initiative, right? So would like to know also more about that.
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, really excited to be here. I love the energy, and I think we all look forward to events like this. But just walking in the hallways, meeting these startup entrepreneurs, there's such diversity of ideas that's being pursued here. It's really, really kind of impressive. And it's great to be just in this room talking about like how to scale and build like iconic SaaS company. In terms of my background, Ujjwal, like I've been in the enterprise software space for a few decades now. I've been part of many successful startups, seen what it takes to go from a whiteboard to scale the product, get the first customers, go from like $1 million ARR to $100 million ARR. So sort of seen the entire spectrum. The last like 2.5 years I've been at Atlassian, and I'm just loving it. It's a great company, great mission. I think our mission is unleash the potential of teams, and it's so inspiring. At the end of the day, we all know to be successful, we need to work together as teams, and that's what Atlassian does. I've been, the last 2.5 years, initially worked on building out their enterprise cloud products and platforms, and then most recently took on this new initiative called Economy, which will chat more.
All right, okay. And I think what would be of a big interest to this session and to the audience here, Bala, is Atlassian has really cracked this B2B space very beautifully, right? And growing platforms and SaaS platforms and products in the B2B space. Would you like to talk a little bit about that playbook? How is that achieved? What is your own learning while at Atlassian on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think to a great extent, like Atlassian is really the poster child of product-led growth. We kind of talk about product-led growth today, but like think about Atlassian. I think back in like 2002, 2003, when the company was founded, it was founded in Sydney. Like two entrepreneurs out of university created like Jira. All of us use Jira, Confluence, Trello, and a bunch of other products. And so they had created the product out of Sydney, and they were trying to figure out how to get to a global audience. You didn't have salespeople, and what's the best way of kind of doing that? And I think they figured out the best way to do it is have users starting to use the product. Right? That's the thesis of a product-led growth. And like even today, like when I talk to like a lot of my friends, they know about Jira and Confluence than Atlassian. And that really comes down to what is product-led growth. When users can relate to the product, that's the whole fundamental crux of what it means to be like a product-led growth, right? In terms of like Atlassian itself, I think broadly it comes down to having the product mindset. And that's true for any successful like startup to figure out, do you really are trying to solve the customer problem? And I think you need to give in a lot of thinking and thought to figure out, is this a pain point? Is this a painkiller that you're trying to solve for? So that's the product mindset. And like even today at Atlassian, we take a lot of time and effort to really think through a lot of the dimension. There's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of research that goes into trying to figure out, okay, is this worth pursuing? Is this a problem that if you build a product, we'll have users come and adopt the product? So that's one. The second is having like a thoughtful go-to-market motion. Right? You can create a great product, but then if you don't think about your go-to-market motion up front, it gets really difficult, right? Because many times you might build a complex product, you might think that you've solved the problem, but then when you try to go and distribute it, it becomes really difficult. You need armies of salespeople, sales engineers, customer success folks, and the whole notion of getting customers acquired and realizing the value from the customers takes a while, right? So the second ingredient is the go-to-market. And I think Atlassian has been right from day one anchored on this product-led growth. And like even today, we talk about how we are building for Fortune 500,000, right? It's just not like the enterprise customers or the mid-market. We're going to build a product that's going to be used by 10 users or 100 users or thousands of users, right? The last and the most important aspect is people. You need to have the right people, and you need to have the right culture. And I think with Atlassian, the culture is very well known. I think people talk about the culture, and it's true. I've been there for the last 2.5 years, and the culture is like, it's embodied in everything that we do. If you just go and search like Atlassian values, it's right there in front and center. And every aspect, every work that you do, a good example is be the change you seek, where if you think there's a problem to be solved, you can go and act on it and make it happen within Atlassian. Or things like open culture, no bullshit. And that's really important. Like people want access to information. And with Atlassian, everything is there in the open. Like you have a strategy page, and you could be an intern joining the company, and you can comment on a strategy doc. And that's so empowering for people to feel like their voice is really heard and they can contribute to the long-term growth.
Very cool, very cool. So, quick audience poll here. How many people here know about Jira or Confluence? How many people use it? Show of hands, massive, right? So, and how many people know that this comes from Atlassian? Slightly less, but not too less, right? So Bala and I were having conversation, he just spoke about. So Bala, if you look at the audience as well, right, I think there is a good amount of familiarity with the Atlassian brand. And you were earlier talking about building the right product, then getting the right GTM, and of course setting the culture right, culture and people right. Now, you also spoke about a very interesting thing, which is building for the Fortune 500,000, right? And that's a very different kind of play and scale. Typically, you would probably build only for the Fortune 5, Fortune 10, 100, or for the small, medium-sized startup scale companies, essentially. How does this play of building for this massive spectrum of scale play out? What is the thought process behind it? Any insights there that you could share?
Yeah, of course. Like I think when Atlassian started, initially it was focused on like mid-market and SMB. And over the years, we've kind of like gone and built our products for enterprise. But all this goes back to the platform. Right? We're kind of building a same common platform that powers our product. And building a platform takes a significant time and effort. The outcome is not evident right on day one. And there's a constant struggle because you can say, hey, let's build amazing products and let's keep kind of going down that path. But then we take a step back and say, no, let's invest in the platform first. Let's get the platform substrate or the underpinnings right. And let's have all the product teams leverage a lot of the platforms. In fact, we think even beyond that is, can this platform even power the ecosystem that surrounds our core products? It's the same fundamental platform. So once we kind of get it like scalable or performant or compliant, that benefits accrues to all the new products that can get built on the platform or the ecosystem that's kind of building integrations or new products and capabilities on our platform.
Very interesting. So you were talking about not only having a platform that allows new product development, but serving the larger ecosystem. And you were talking about building economy, right? So could you talk a little bit about what this means essentially? Where is it going?
Yeah, great question, Ujjwal, right? So I think Atlassian, we've been around for like 20 years now, and we've grown. We are still growing at like 50% growth year after year in our cloud markets. We are close to 3 billion, and we have set our eyes to 10 billion in ARR, not valuation, 10 billion in ARR. A lot of it is, again, the investment going to our platform, and also in terms of how we acquire customers, right? So we really fine-tune the customer acquisition kind of process. But taking a step back, like I think the way we have looked at our business is the first act of Atlassian was like creating great products. And we continue to do that. We continue to build amazing products, Jira, Confluence, Trello. I think recently we made a big push in the ITSM market, and we keep creating new products, right? So for a lot of the entrepreneurial folks here, I think Atlassian provides the opportunity to bring your entrepreneurial energy and create like new DevOps product within the Atlassian kind of ecosystem. So that's the first act, creating great products, and that continues. The next act of the company was like creating platforms. Right? And that's the journey we've been in for the last like 5+ years, where we're building platforms that powers the products and the ecosystem. The next transformation that we are embarking on is economy, where we are saying, hey, can this platform really create like a compelling economy around our platform? Can we create sustainable businesses on this platform? So we already have a thriving marketplace over the last like 10 years that's collectively pulled in $2.5 billion in GMV, but we know we can do a lot more, right? Like for a lot of the entrepreneurs out there, how can we enable you to build on the Atlassian stack? So you don't have to worry on the infrastructure side, on the compliance side, you focus on the business logic, building great products for the work and collaboration sort of market, and we provide you and we support you, not just from the build perspective, but also distribution. I think a lot of the speakers echoed is while you can build product, I think where like a lot of the challenges is distribution and getting it in front of customers, and we can leverage our product-led growth motions and get those products in front of many, many customers that we serve.
Okay. And Bala, you were earlier referring to PLG, right? Product-led growth. And it's a very hot topic right now in the Indian ecosystem in NASSCOM as well. A lot of community conversations happen. And you know, you were earlier referring to a couple of examples, very, very beautiful ones. I thought it's worth sharing about sales-led growth versus product-led growth. So could you, from your experiences in past pre-Atlassian as well, share some insights on what you learned in how SLG plays out versus how PLG plays out?
Yeah. So I've been in startups where we've primarily focused on building enterprise products and had sales-led sort of motions. And then with Atlassian, of course, we have kind of primarily focused on product-led kind of motions. My observation is, I think right now, the power is back to the users and the developers, right? They have a disproportionate sort of saying in terms of what products they want to use. I think gone are the era where the CIO will come in and mandate, these are the product or the tech stack that you need to use, right? People need that freedom. People need that creativity to go and pick and choose the right products. And I think at Atlassian, we really believe in that. We believe in best of breeds, where we provide the right products, but we kind of like surround it with complementary products. So in terms of product-led growth, it kind of comes back to what value are you providing to the user? And how can you get started? I think it kind of comes down basically to that fundamental thesis. So any product, you can have the users get started, and then you bring other users to the forum, right? At the right step, you do need sales-led motion too, because even if you look at enterprise sales, at some point you want to engage with the CIO or the VPs of IT to kind of tell them about the broader narrative, about the platform narrative, and we do kind of engage with enterprise customers, but we wait to see how much of demand and pull of our products already kind of exist in those customer bases.
So, you know, you're basically talking about two layers really, right? One is where the end user is kind of latching onto the product itself, and then you reach to the CIO layer essentially, and where you do the enterprise selling essentially.
Yeah.
That's what you're referring to. Any specific examples that you want to kind of illustrate this with, or you know, anything from your memory?
Like far too often I've seen companies go down the route of just being sales-led, and it's attractive in the beginning because your ACV is much higher, right? Your price point is much higher. And especially you're trying to raise your next round of funding, you can say, hey, I have all of these big logos. But then where it comes back to bite you is that scaling becomes difficult. All the dollars that you raise, in fact, goes back to your GTM. You're hiring more salespeople, you're trying to get their quotas right, you're trying to get more sales engineers. While I'm not saying it's not possible, it's not impossible, it's like a lot more difficult, right? On the other hand, if you build like a great product that's consumable by the users, and you give it away free, right? Even to like 3 users or 5 users, and people start seeing the value of the product. There's more of a pull and a demand for the product. I think that gives you a lot more cues in terms of the product market fit, and then you can layer in the appropriate like sales-led motion to be able to accelerate the growth.
Very interesting. And Bala, any thoughts or any good examples you've seen where a particular type of product or platform lends more to a PLG versus SLG, or you know, this kind of strategy that you were talking about, layering PLG and then SLG on top with a free giveaway where you learn more about the user need and build demand, and then kind of go for the selling side essentially. So do you see a difference in the kind of products that play out well on each, or do you think it's a replicable strategy everywhere?
Yeah, I think we are moving to an era where like more and more products are going to be self-serve. right? And users want to be able to interact with the product and play with the product. Even the most complex products, like I've seen people have a freemium, right? There could be like maybe a very small niche examples, maybe banking products or something, where people might still want to have like a very much top-down enterprise kind of sales. But I firmly believe that we are in this era of product-led, self-serve, user-driven, developer-driven, where you have easy access to the product, and I think you leverage that motion to grow and scale your business.
Beautiful. And if you really talk about product-led growth, Bala, right? What comes next is, of course, what kind of product technology talent do you want to acquire who's very tuned in to understanding user needs, right? And responding to that essentially. So what are your thoughts? What does Atlassian look at for some folks here, right? About what kind of talent qualifies well for such kind of initiatives?
Yeah. I think with Atlassian, like we are looking at very broad markets. And like we are saying, okay, our target sort of audience is 1 billion knowledge workers. That's huge. And we want to be able to make our products and give those products in the hands of those knowledge workers to make them productive, to make their teams even more successful, right? So with Atlassian, we tend to attract both like people who have worked on like enterprise software or even consumer software, because we are frankly like a B2B company with B2C kind of scale, right? So it kind of brings in a lot of those dynamics where people can bring those skill set and abilities. And I think Atlassian, again, we've embraced a lot of the culture of being the change you want to seek and bringing that entrepreneurial energy to the company. So frankly, we look for people who worked at startups and who want to come and join Atlassian and who also know how to kind of navigate and work like in a company like Atlassian. We're still relatively small, but we're growing really fast. Like right now, we are close to like 9,000 people. Since I joined 2.5 years, we've doubled. We've gone from like 4,000 people to like 8,000 or 9,000 people right now. And our goal is like we've set up an ambition to 25,000 people in the coming years. And India and Bangalore is going to play a very, very vital role in making that happen. There's an amazing talent here. And I think the Bangalore Center is a key R&D center for us. I think today we have close to like 1,500 people, and we want to double to 3,000 in the coming years. And that core product work that's happening out of Bangalore, right? Not just like a side gig or like a supporting work. Like key product, the entire initiative is being led out of India with like top line and bottom line impact.
Lovely. So, in kind of summing, we have about 20 minutes, and I think we are kind of crossing time almost. What would be like the advice you would give to startups that are trying to scale B2B into B2B SaaS, especially in the Indian ecosystem, right? Should they focus on the Indian market? Should they also look at the global markets? What would be a good mix in that sense, essentially?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? In my observation, it comes back to like having that right product market fit, right? And like you need to spend time like working with your users, working with your customers to really kind of understand that. And you may not be able to get the scale right on day one, and that's okay, right? You can't build a platform, it's a journey. Like when people say, yeah, I'm kind of building a platform right on day one, like I feel you're missing the point, right? You have to go through the process. You have to build a great product. You have to sort of like nail that in terms of the product market, sort of the product user experience and the market fit. And then once you start to get the traction, then you start kind of thinking through maybe in the year 4 or 5 of your journey, start thinking through is how do I build this into a platform? Because eventually you want to be a multi-product company. Right? You can't just be a single product company. You want to recreate like a portfolio of products that can add value to your customers. So that's one. And the second is being thoughtful about your GTM right from day one. Right? Like many startups I talk to, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go to a trade show and get my initial leads. While that's great, you'll get your first 5, 10 customers. You need to be able to kind of think long term, right? How are you going to acquire customers? How are you going to serve the customers? So having that thought and having that understanding upfront helps you kind of build a scalable business for the long term, a durable business, right? At Atlassian, we kind of talk about our founders say how they want to build this into a 100-year-old company. Right? Not a 5-year or a 10-year. Right? So a lot of the thinking here is like long-term, very strategic, and I think that's why the title is like, how can you build an iconic B2B SaaS powerhouse, right? It takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes a lot of intentional thoughtfulness in making that happen.
in the closing, Bala, what are the books you're currently reading, and anything specifically, any resources you would advise? Because this concept of GTM being very important came out very strongly in your narrative. What kind of books would you or resources would you recommend for good GTM learning as well?
A lot of the GTM sort of experience is through my personal experiences.
Yes.
Having been at startups, I've seen what works and what doesn't work. But I think these days there's a lot of good content available, right? And forums like these give you the opportunity to understand and interact. And like hopefully, I think you won't repeat many of the mistakes. I think many startups I've seen have kind of gone to a point where they get the initial scale and the leverage, and then they struggle. They struggle to kind of like get to the next level of growth, right? So I think forums like this, like be out there, be open in terms of talking about your ideas and models, get the right mentors that'll help you guide and like decide on your business plan or business approach upfront.
And that calls for more of your visits here to share your wisdom, and of course, sharing on the forums like these. Thank you, Bala. It was a great conversation, and we are done here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause once again. We'd like to thank both Bala Venkat Rao and Ujjwal Teku for that brilliant conversation. I'd like to request Ujjwal to please present Bala Venkat Rao with a small token of our appreciation.